our area director, Toastmaster Vimil Vijayasenan.
Good evening, Toastmasters. Can I have all of you to switch on your cameras for a bit? It would be really nice. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So just quick raise of hands of those who have participated in an international speech contest at club level, area level, division level, whatever. Just a quick raise of hand. Yeah. Fine. So, so some of you have experienced contesting in international speech and some of you haven't, and this is the year for you. So the first thing now before I move on with the session is I want the ones who have not contested to put your hands up. The ones who have not contested in international. Okay. And just want to tell you that your hands up is a sign that you have already agreed to do it this year. Okay. So I want to see all of you contesting this year for the international speech contest. And there is no magic, but I will just quickly take you through some of the things that you could look at just to have a good speech. And this whole speech, the content, I have put it together with a lot of learnings that I've got from a lot of mentors, a lot of Toastmasters, put all together something, a small capsule so that you can take it up and work for your speech because we have the contest coming in February. All right. So now, before we start, we need to understand one major part is, are you qualified to participate in an international speech? So there are four kinds of contests, like you all know. There is humorous speech contest, evaluation speech contest, table topics, and international. So the other three, as long as you're a paid member, you can participate. But to participate in an international speech contest, you need to have either two of these major aspects. Of course, you need to be a paid member, that's for sure. Apart from that, you either have to be someone who has completed your CC manual, that is up to P6 in a CC manual, which is no more there. For the new members, it's very clear you have to finish complete 2 levels of any one path at least. So if you have completed 2 levels, only then you are eligible to participate for this contest. And the whole beauty about this contest is, this is the only contest where you have a chance, as you win from club, area, division, district, you have a chance to become the world champion of public speaking. This is the contest that goes all the way to the world champion finals. So yes, such a speech requires good amount of practice, good amount of understanding the concept. So let me take you through. Now, everybody, once you make a speech, know that you have created a very good speech, you're very confident about it, and that is what we all think. Either we have made a very good speech and you're so confident about your speech, but we need to look at certain aspects to ensure that you really have the best speech or not. Because once you write, you're really into it. You feel so happy, I've written a beautiful speech, and I'm sure this time I'm going to rock the stage. But let's do a reality check. International speech usually is of two types. Either you have a speech which is persuasive in nature, or it's an inspirational speech. So generally, you will see that the best of international speeches will have the aspects of either being a very persuasive style of speaking or an inspirational speech. Now, let me put it in simple, some of the ingredients that you would have to have in an international speech. So first and foremost, you need to have a topic. When I say topic, it's not the topic of your speech, but what is the subject that you would be talking about? What is the content, or what is the main focus of your speech? So that is very important, that your topic, your speech should have certain point of wisdom. it should have an illustrative story, and of course, it needs to have a call to action. So these are the four major elements of an international speech. Now, when you talk about topic, it's very, very, very difficult because sometimes you are confused. What is the right topic to take? When you look at this picture, you can say there's a lion and there's a tiger. I mean, both are almost as good as each other. So you still need to decide what is the right topic that you need to pick up for this kind of a speech. Because this is one category, like I told you, you go all the way to the World Championship finals, which means you should have a very powerful topic and you need to choose it wisely. Yes, it's also very important to know your audience. When you prepare your speech, it's very, very important to know your audience. If you feel that your speech, your audience is mostly, for example, Arabs, then you need to ensure your content does not have too much of Indian elements and then you miss out on the major fact. Or if your audience is full of a mixed crowd, then you cannot stick to a certain cultural speech. Like if I am from Kerala and we have, for example, this audience right now who is listening to me, you're from different parts of India. And if I start to give a speech that is so connecting to Kerala and the roots of Kerala, probably it might not sink into many of the members in the audience. So it's important to understand that you have to cater to the what kind of audience. So your speech should be prepared looking at the audience in mind as well. Also remember, do not do these kind of speeches where the actions are too difficult to apply. So let's look at the example. Take these 10 steps to happiness. I'm sure by end of your speech, nobody's going to remember those 10 steps. Memorize the 5 G's to productivity: eat healthy, exercise more, save money. Now, when I say eat healthy, exercise more, and save money, it looks like simple topic, but this everybody knows this. We all know that we need to eat healthy, we need to exercise more, we need to save money. So look at topics, not the ones which are too difficult to apply, but look out for topics that are very simple. The actions, call to action should be really simple. Like be nice, apologize, smile, ask for help, offer help, believe in yourself. These are simple topics, but yet it is very powerful. So when you choose your topics, ensure that your call to actions are very simple, easily relatable, and also everybody can apply it. Everyone who listens to you can walk out with one call to action. Yes, I just need to ensure that I need to smile a little more. Very simple action. So look at these kind of call to actions in your speeches. It will be much more relatable and it will actually touch the audience much better. Now, whenever you are delivering a speech, this is not a mandatory option, but you do need to have a good story. And when you tell a story, your story should eventually have one message coming out of it. So when you explain your story, remember that can your message be less than 10 words in the speech? I can say a huge story, like for example, if I'm talking about myself, I can say, I had this issues in life, and then as I went through certain stages of my life, I learned to accept myself, I learned to love myself. I have so many things that I can say about my life, but what after I say the story, what is that one point that I can come out with? I can say, listen, learn to love yourself first. That's it. My message was less than 10 words, and it is clear after I say a certain part of my story. So it's important that as you state your story, mention your story, it's important to bring out a foundational phrase, or I can say your most important message, which should come out, but ensure that that message is not more than 10 words, and try to use it quite often during the speech so that it sinks into the audience that this is the message he's trying to say. So tell a story, but make a point. Just like Martin Luther King, he had a very simple message after whatever the big long speech he had given. What was the eventual foundational phrase for him? I have a dream. And that's exactly what you need to look at. Your story should eventually tell a point, should have one message that is repeated and synced into the audience. Now, this is the secret mantra, I would say, of an international speech. Your 7 minutes of a speech should just have this format. It might look confusing, but this is the mantra. So, what do? You tell them what you're going to tell them. So, you start your speech with this. You tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them. After that, you tell them what you told them. So, this is in summary how your speech should look like. Tell them what you're going to tell them, which is your opening. You set the premise, and then you tell them with your story, with your anecdotes, and then in the end, you tell them what you told them. So, that's your closing. If this mantra is followed, you've already prepared a wonderful international speech. This is something which I always tell everybody when I'm mentoring. Also, I tell everyone, please forget about Google. Look for personal stories. Your life is a walking story. Every single day that you pass through, there is always one story that you can always recollect, that you can note down, and then put it as part of your speech. Not necessarily sometimes with you, but maybe something that you have experienced with maybe your relatives or maybe someone around you. There is always some personal story that adds more value than something that you read on in a book or in Google. Yes, you can use certain quotes or you can use certain small anecdotes that can connect to your story, but end of the day, the most important thing is to have your personal story, because international speech is about you. When you go on stage, you have the audacity to talk about your own message, and then people will accept you because he's talking about himself, he's talking about his life. That adds more value, and the audience can accept your speech when it is more personal. Remember, do not put yourself above the audience. So, throughout the speech, also remember, don't go to a limit in which you start to talk a lot about you, and then the audience feel like, oh, okay, so he's the who's who, so I don't have to actually listen to his speech, or I don't really get connected to his speech. Because if you start to say, when I was small, I learned how to play guitar, and then over the period of years I have become a great guitarist, and today people love things like this. If you start to put yourself above the audience will lose connect with you. So that can actually backfire. So it's important not to put yourself above the audience in terms of your content, especially when you're talking about yourself and your story. And of course, remember, do not put yourself below the audience as well. Like if I start off a speech saying, last year when I was in the jail, I had a tough time with some of those guys, but I actually came out and then I learned something. Whatever you say after that, you might have made an inspirational comeback. But your start, you put yourself below the audience because they have lost the impression about you. So it's important to maintain a balance and be in that level where audience can connect to you. You don't have to be above them, you don't have to be below them. Be in that connect zone. Now this is very, very important. I just love this picture. For many years I've been using this in all of my presentations, but this is something really important. I know all of us, we all love our hands, right? All the 5 fingers. Imagine you had to chop it off. You feel bad, right? Why do we feel bad? Because of course it's our own hand. And editing is exactly the same concept. When we write our speeches, we get so attached to our content that we are not willing to let go of this line. No, 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 this is my favorite line. It's the punch of the speech. But it's important to realize it's a 7-minute speech. So your content should be less than 700 words, ideally. And when it's less than 700 words, sometimes as you finish writing, you realize you've written 800, 900 words. You'll have to bring it down below 700. How do you do it? By editing, removing lines which are maybe not necessary or maybe having the same meaning. So remember this always. This picture is something you should remember, that you should be willing to chop off that finger, chop off that content, even if you love it so much, because your aim is to have a speech that is meaningful, powerful, and not much of repetitions of the same content. So let me take you to a simple example. Okay, I want all of you to edit this. We all have different roads that we must carve out in this journey through life. No one can make or walk these paths for us. We were all born under different stars that have led us to create these new and unique opportunities, and it is up to us to take advantage of them. No one else can create or choose these roads for us, and ultimately, the roads we walk are our own, but we must make them for ourselves. Okay, can someone edit this for me? You can switch on your camera, one of you, and just edit this to me. Once again, I'm going to just play it again. You can switch on your cameras. Yeah. And can somebody edit this again for me? It sounds nice. It's very good language. It's a powerful, but can someone edit this for me? You can open your mic and speak it out. No problem.
It sounds
Anybody?
like a lot of wisdom, which can make you look very glorified. I think if you were referencing to a story or your own story, you could just say the first line, we all have different roads, and then you can share your story where, just like I told you, me and my friend, we went down different paths. All this extra stuff, it's not doing anything. It's
Exactly.
giving you
Anybody
wisdom.
else? Anybody else?
We just say the roads we walk are our own, but we must make them for ourselves, and that's it.
Okay, so let's just go to the editing version. And that's it. We make our own paths in life. That's all. So it all, whatever you just read, it all meant the same, just in different words. So that's why I said sometimes you feel so attached to that content that you don't want to let it go. But the most important thing is sometimes you need to let it go to ensure that you have the best possible speech content. Okay, let's do another example. On my way to my favorite organic store, grocery store that my second grade friend recommended, I saw a brown and black tabby cat with long whiskers and a jaunty demeanor. It was a cat that I have seen many times and it's usually very quiet. It was always in the same spot under a tattered green awning. Can someone different who did not respond now can try this?
I
Not
saw
her,
a brown and
not,
black.
It
not
was
her.
mainly for the grocery, but the second part it was not necessary.
No,
I saw,
just say a line. Give an
I
edited
saw
line.
a cat.
So, cat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anybody else? Okay, so let's move to the next editing, and it says, on the way to the store, I
I
saw a
saw
cat.
that.
So in speaking, remove adjectives and background information that does not add to the speech premise at all. So remember, when you're editing, look for these important points. Cut out that information that is not necessary at all, which doesn't add any value to your speech. Remember that. Okay. What does editing do? Editing makes sentences punch. It gives that extra element, and your speech gets more meaningful with lesser words and more impact. Okay. Now remember this simple concept when you write your speeches. Of course, this is has two elements to it. One is when you are at a physical contest, it makes most sense, but it also makes an important aspect when it comes to your content. So when I say speak to one, look at all, it means your content should be more singular in nature. So if I say, how many of you love to go on a long drive? This is plural. Okay, it says like, it can be like I'm involving all of you, but not necessarily you. But the moment I want to say something very specific, I'm sure you would love to go on a drive. Now, when I say this, each one of you will receive this message individually. So, important aspect is whenever you try to build your content, try to reach it out to as if you're delivering it to one person, so that everyone in the audience can individually receive that message from you. Fellow Toastmasters, after today's session, I'm sure you will take that phone and call your mom. When I say this, it means you doesn't mean it is DTM Gurbinder or Madam Toastmaster Sureka or Toastmaster Kareem. I said you will take it. So when you are in the audience, you will accept it. The moment I say, after this session today, I'm sure all of you will call your mom. Now, here, it's a choice. As an audience, you're not telling it to me, you're telling everybody. I don't feel directly connected. That's why I say, speak to one, look at all. Look at all, when I say, of course, in a physical session, you have the opportunity to say singular words, but look at all. But even if you're on virtual, ensure your content is more singular in nature, which can directly impact your audience. So remember, speak to one, look at all. Don't forget this. You need this. International speech is all about being a serious speech, but don't forget this. Because if you don't have humor in your speech, trust me, the real impact of the speech might go away, because people might get so carried away and you're taking them down the road with your message and the impact of your message, that they will forget to relax during that speech. So it's important that your speech, in spite of having all that inspirational stories and all those motivational stories that come through, put in a few elements of humor. That humor is what will make your speech a little more colorful. So remember, you have a 7-minute speech, look for at least 2 to 3 humor spots at least. And DTM Gurbinder will agree, the best of winners have had more than 5 to 6 to 10 humor points during the 7-minute speech. So try to fit in as much as humor as possible without taking away the real cream of your speech as well. Try to create vivid images. Again, when I say create vivid images, your content is all what matters here. In your content, if you can create that vivid images, that is where the audience get more attracted. I can say I went to Kerala and I enjoyed a boat ride. But if I say I was in the boat and that wind that passed by with the smell of the coconut trees, I could really enjoy that little drive on the boat. So a little bit of vivid images helps, because people start to imagine, they feel you, and they stay by you as you take them through your speech. So yes, try to create vivid images. Your ultimate aim is to take your audience on a roller coaster ride. So they should be highs, there should be dips, there should be humor, there should be vivid images. All of this put together is the real beauty of international speech. Take them through that journey of 7 minutes. That 7 minutes should feel like, wow, I enjoyed the speech. I learned so much. I had fun. I laughed. It should be like a thriller movie. take them through that ride. So yes, remember to take your audience on a roller coaster ride. That's the whole thing about international speech. End of the day, please remember one simple thing. Your aim is to touch the audience with a speech that is really simple. You don't have to make complicated content to reach out to your audience. You need to keep your speech as simple as possible that anybody in the audience should feel like, wow, a simple speech, but what a beautiful message. I really enjoyed that speech. This is what you want to hear from your audience. So remember, keep it simple. But also, remember, the best part of the speech, what people will always remember, is your closing. So ensure that your closing re-emphasizes on whatever you went took them through. If you had one message in place, ensure that your closing is still about that same message. Don't confuse your audience with different closing messages. Stick to your story, stick to your content, and ensure that your story, your speech has the closing that is powerful enough to support you for whatever you just said for the last probably 6 minutes, 30 seconds. So, powerful closing. And now, I need to put this slide for all of you. It is, remember, you all have a mentor. An international speech, trust me, if you do it on your own, you are going to reach the highway. Okay? But nothing is going to really happen because unless you work closely with your mentor, you will not know how to tactically and handle international speech, how to practice for it, how to prepare your content, what kind of humor that fits in, how to look at the audience. And now you have to also look at the element of how you will do it on a virtual platform as well. So there are multiple things that you need to look at, and you need somebody to guide you. No matter how good a speaker you are, you still need somebody to guide you. So please work closely with your mentor because that is your turning point and that's what will make the biggest impact. You might be an amazing speaker, you might be an amazing writer, but somebody is appointed as a mentor for a reason. They are there to guide you and support you. So make sure to follow up, chase them, be with them, and contest this time with really inspiring speeches. And after all of that, you definitely need this practice. Don't think that this is going to work out like your normal sessions. Prepare on the previous day, practice a bit, or just probably not even practice and then go and deliver on the speech. That doesn't happen for international speech. From my personal experience, with one of my international speeches back in 2017, when I was working with DT and Kun, I am not exaggerating, but before the speech, I would have practiced it full speech like how I'm going to deliver for at least 100 times. And I'm not exaggerating. 100 times I would have practiced it and then delivered it. That's the kind of practice you will need to do for this kind of contest because remember, you have a chance to become the world's best speaker because this is the only contest that takes you that far. So I'm wishing you all the best and thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm open to answer. You can switch on your cameras and ask me if you have any
Vimil,
questions.
is it necessary to have a call to action in international speech?
Yes, I suggest you should have a message because call to action, when I say, it doesn't mean that you have to tell them to go and do something, but at least there should be a message that, yes, I need to take my phone and call my mom. I need to respect elders or I need to smile more often. Whatever, but there should be a message. Without a message, if you simply go through last 10 years of best winners, they always had a message. So message is critical. And that is why it's in the international category where you are considered as a like a classic public speaker who can inspire the audience. Inspiration only comes with some sort of a message. Anybody else?
Well, generally, when we are preparing for the international speech, there is a misconception saying that it should be emotional and people should cry in that speech. What is your view on that?
Okay, so this is a good question actually. So it is not necessary. If you in fact if you see the last few years of winners, I don't think they've made you cry actually. So I don't think making people cry is the major aspect, but how you have inspired, how you would have. In fact, you don't even have to have a dip. You can have something where you learned something out of some situation, or you got inspired by somebody to do something. I remember Shaiju's speech. I would take this example for this shirt of Narayan. Okay, I really love that speech because it didn't have any major dip. Like nobody was dying or nobody was suffering anything, but it had a simple message that whatever you have, give it, and that makes the difference. And today, if I can still remember his speech, it's because of the message. So remember that it's not always necessary to have the dips. Like when I had to take my example, my speech had a dip, but not everybody needs to have it. It's not compulsory. As long as you have a strong story that you can stand by for the message, that's what is more important. And yes, you still need to take them through a nice ride. You should have a mix of humor. And in fact, I feel like a lot of humor does help because it eases the audience, but at the same time you're conveying the message that you want to in the form of a humor and your personal story as well. So I don't think you need to have those. I get this question sometimes from some of the mentees that I didn't go through anything bad in my life, so what do I do? So you don't have to really go through anything bad. You still have something inspiring to share it. So it's not necessary that you need to have a dip in life. Not everybody has a life like I had probably or somebody had. There's always a positive that you can pick out from. Yeah. Yeah.
Other than personal stories, things that have happened to you, what else do you think could be topics for an international speech?
See, from my experience, personal story, when I say it doesn't mean your own personal story. It can be stories that are not. Let's take a simple example. Today, Sureka gave a speech. She spoke about Starbucks, right? So that is not her personal story. It's a story about someone. She she researched on it, she understood about it, and she spoke. So as long as your story can support a message in these kind of scenarios, like in her case, for example, if she was doing an international speech, it could be a small element. So you can handle international speech in uh, two ways. One is you can have a long story, one single long story, and convey your message, or you can have three or two different stories to support the same message. So in this case, it's fine to pick up one story from another well-known example, and then you can have an example of, see, because if you're going to go and deliver a speech about everything that's already known to people, then they might not receive you that well. It's like, okay, he's come and spoke about this, why should I like really get. So you can take an example. You're one of, especially when you're having three stories, then it's good to have one well-known example. Like I remember in one of my speeches, I took an example. It was a speech called Magic, and it was about doing, creating magic when you're not there. So in that story, I clearly remember I took an example of my mom, where she was teaching stitching to her group of girls, and they learned. And then when she left, also they could earn a living out of that stitching. Then I took my example where I taught karate, and my students could do self-defense without me being there. So the real magic happens when you're not there. And then the third example that I took was Toastmasters, which everybody knew of. I said Ralph Smedley started Toastmasters And today he is not alive, but his magic is happening. The contest is going on right now. So here I took an example from a known person. So it's good to have, but I feel you should have a mix, because end of the day they want to hear you, hear your story, things that you are bringing into the picture, not something which everybody knows about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Sarah. We have time. 2-3 minutes more.
Okay, I understand the fact that audience response is important. I want to know how important it is, because the judgment criteria and the judges sitting there, are they gonna judge our speech according to the audience's response, or are they gonna judge according to whatever?
Okay, in this case, I would also need Mr. Gurbinder, DTM Gurbinder's help, because to be honest,
In the international speech contest, audience response is not a criteria. In the humorous speech contest, there is in the ballot paper, I'm talking from ballot paper.
ballot paper wise, yes.
So audience response in an online contest is a very difficult thing to do. So the judges now are not looking at online the response as one of the as their guidelines. Is just how impressed I am with your performance. That's it. Yeah, in the humorous speech, obviously, if I'm not able to laugh, then nobody would have. So humorous speech needs to have laughter. But an international speech is content, message, appropriateness. So the ballot papers are there, which we can share with you. Audience response is not a ballot paper item. So there are no points for that.
But if it's the physical session, sir, then?
Even then, the ballot paper remains the same. So in none of the ballot papers, except for the humorous speech contest, is there a section called as an audience response. And in humorous only because people should laugh, and people have not laughed, then it's not considered to be a humorous.
Then, sir, how important is it to connect with the audience, like what Vimil just said?
Absolutely important.
It becomes even more important, actually.
Because, so imagine the judge as your audience. What kind of an impression you left the judge with? Like Saransh judge question, call to action. So if at the end of the speech, the judge felt that this was a powerful message and it moved him, it touched him, that's what you need to do. That's what it is all about.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vimil.
Anybody else? We can close the session then. All right. Then thank you so much, and back to the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Vimil. So now we come to the end of